Hi everyone. Thanks for being here. We spend a lot of time thinking about how to make infrastructure invisible, but thank you all for attending and giving us the chance to bring some visibility to the work that we're doing. And also thank you to our partners. I'm about to talk about some pretty juicy numbers, and it is because of you guys that we can make this happen.
Good.
Okay. Your blockchain, your revenue, enterprise guarantees. A couple weeks ago, we launched the OP Enterprise product. And I wanted to give a little bit of context and color for why we launched this product and how we got here. Over the last several years, we've had the privilege of working with over 50 blockchains and 50 companies to launch their products on chain. And we have gathered everything that we have learned from launching blockchains for such varied use cases into a single offering. So imagine if you could launch a blockchain in weeks, not years. Actually, you can do it in 45 minutes, but most people want to make some configurations, and that takes weeks. And imagine if, because of the chain stack that you chose, for every dollar that your users put in, you made $10 out in revenue. I know that sounds crazy, but these are literally metrics collated from what our partners are experiencing on-chain today. So that is across 50 plus blockchains. And again, these are big numbers, and everybody and their mother is going to get into big numbers when they do their event. But when you guys look around at the industry and you look at whether it's, I don't know if this is spicy to say, but if you look at other L1 launches and other chain ecosystems, and they are also talking about big numbers, I implore you to ask one question. Are these numbers based on actual usage in production, not just benchmarks created in testnet? Over the last year alone, cumulatively, these 50 chains have done 6 billion transactions. If you rewind 2 years, that was only 200 million transactions. So that means we have grown at a rate of 29x. That is quadruple the second fastest growing blockchain or blockchain ecosystem. It's pretty crazy. I know, it could have been 30, but it's 29. Just keeping it honest, you know? And the reason for this is because we don't just think of ourselves as infrastructure goblins, although we are very good infrastructure goblins. We think about strategic partnership to our customers. And so companies want to launch and scale their products on chain. The infrastructure is just kind of a thing on the side that they have to deal with or that we take care of for them. And as you guys have seen throughout the course of the day today, we don't just think about scalability as throughput, although we do lead the industry in throughput. We think about removing all bottlenecks sitting between you and your growth. And so just some examples of that: transactions on Uniswap needed to be 10 times faster. That is how Unichain thought about scalability for DEX trading. For Base, they needed to make the application usable to their normie customers. So Opal was just talking about the magic spend UX, which Coinbase was able to patent because of the work that we did with Ethereum L1 and Sunnyside in implementing all of the EIPs required for that UX to be possible in the first place. Shout out Sunnyside. And for World, even though most applications in crypto are DeFi or financial, World is really focused on enabling human-first transactions. So they were able to do priority human ordering, even though the baseline infrastructure is typically configured for financial use cases. So shout out to the Flashbots team for helping us accelerate innovation on that front. So these are our success cases. And if you zoom out for a second and you crawl back up the decision tree, there's usually two options that enterprises or companies entering crypto are faced with. Let's say they're already interested in crypto. They already want to dabble in something on chain. They've got deploy their own chain or deploy their POC on someone else's blockchain. And to date, the idea of deploying your own blockchain has been a horrific thought. After all, we have a venture capital industry that has invested billions of dollars in teams creating and differentiating their own blockchain stacks. So, there really hasn't been a choice here. The only option has been to deploy on an existing chain. So people will, let's say, deploy their stablecoin, hemorrhage $100 million in incentives to boost up that 14% APY, and then the incentives end, and the users leave just as quickly as they came, and people are left wondering what went wrong. And so it's true, blockchain infrastructure is incredibly difficult to navigate. If you ask two different blockchain engineers, okay, forget two different blockchain engineers. If you pick two of my co-founders and you ask them how to define a blockchain, they will give you two different answers. And so for an enterprise, trying to understand whether ZK is for privacy or for latency or for security, what the difference between the risk zero implementation versus succinct versus fault proofs, it's just a lot of different jargon that you shouldn't have to navigate. And so this is where we come in. We've done this so many times for other companies. We want to enable you to focus on your product strategy. And maybe your product strategy leads you down the deploy on someone else's ecosystem. If you do that, it's usually because you want to use someone else's liquidity to bootstrap your own activity. But like most large companies, they have their own product suites. And what they want to do is compete for distribution with differentiated UX. Our goal is to enable you to do that UX differentiation. And I think throughout the day, you guys might have heard us talk about two seemingly conflicting pillars. On one hand, we call ourselves the OP Stack Standard, which should imply that everyone is deploying the same thing. And on the other hand, we say you can build incredibly customized, incredibly differentiated products with the OP Stack. And you can do both. And what we've learned is that companies, when they think about standards, they think about security, uptime, reliability. And when they think about customization, they think about vertically integrating their specific products to create the best UX for their users. So we do all the grunt work in the background in order for you to think about what that vertical integration should look like for your product. And if it is right for you to bootstrap with liquidity on an existing chain, we help you launch on neutral block space. We help you do it in a way where if you wanted to launch on your own chain down the line, you could easily. And if you are ready to launch on your own blockchain, as my co-founder Carl likes to say, treasure awaits. Every dollar in, $10 out. This is in our Masaria report. We aren't just pulling these numbers out of our ass. Well, okay. This is also why we are just shy of $1 trillion in DEX volume over the last 2 years. That is a growth rate of 23x. And so if we take it back to the top, we talk about this being your blockchain, your revenue, and enterprise guarantees. What does that really mean? This really is your blockchain. It is the most permissive license, MIT licensed. You don't have any lock-in. You're here and you pay us because you want to. You could just as easily deploy your own fork. It is your revenue. When you hemorrhage those $100 million onto your own chain, you get to keep that distribution. You are profiting off of the activity that you are controlling, instead of hemorrhaging those profits and that upside to another chain ecosystem. So whether it be fee markets, margins on those fees, sequencing policies, this is all under your control. These are all your economic parameters to fiddle with. And as Guillaume was saying in the panel earlier, enterprise guarantees is a well-understood standard in Web 2. And we're proud to be among the first to actually provide that on a Web 3 stack. So concretely, that means 99.99% uptime. The OP stack has industry-leading uptime, 15-minute incident response SLAs, and 24/7 support. If you choose to deploy an OP stack chain, you are deploying the industry-leading combination across latency, throughput, production hardness, and decentralization. Everything that we are offering you is from what we have learned across deploying 29 chains to production and scaling those products on-chain. You get all of this as the OP Enterprise package. You got one throat to choke for everything that you need to do infrastructurally on chain.
Snap.
And we're super excited about our 2026 roadmap. Even faster block times, even more parameters to fiddle with on your economics, continuous upgrades, native interoperability, custom compliance controls to take advantage of the new regulatory environment, an SDK to enable the DeFi Mullet, to enable Web3 UX and Web3 yield integrated directly into your Web2 front ends, and cutting-edge technology, zero-knowledge proof systems. When you work with us, you are building with people who invented the stack. That's across 50 chains, 6 billion transactions in the last year alone, and 29x growth, by far the leading growth rate across any blockchain ecosystem. Your blockchain, your revenue, and enterprise guarantees. Thank you guys so much for coming today. I really appreciate it.